Storm-fans. God eftermiddag her på Gladsaxe Stadium, og velkommen til EFA, Europæisk Fodboldfest. I dag tager vores hold af Nordic Storm imod Paris Musketeers her på hjemmebane. Jeg starter lige at give en lille velkomst til vores gæster på forandring, og en endnu større til vores egne Nordic Storm. Og når spillerne laver indløb her om nogle få minutter, så er der en bandit, som løber mere med. I kender ham her på Gladsaxe Stadium. Det er vores allesammens darling, publikums bedste ven. Om lidt løber man ind sammen med vores cheerleaders og danner turné på hjemmeholdet. Giv en kæmpe velkomst til Elton! Storm chasers. Who's that rolling over you? Det er nemlig tid til at byde velkommen til dagens modstandere her på banen. Helt for forandring. Giv en sportslig og respektfuld velkommen til Les Musketeers Paris! Paris Musketeers!
This is week 6 of the European Football Alliance. We're in Gladsaxe Stadium in Copenhagen, and we see the visiting team, the Paris Musketeers, are hitting the turf, and they're matching it up with, naturally, the home team, the Nordic Storm. Paris Musketeers are coming into this duel with 3 wins and 1 loss. The loss against the Munich Ravens, and naturally the Nordic Storm So far, 4 matchups, 4 victories. Calling this game for you, my name is Jörg Opu Opoklik, and with me our color commentator is the regulator, Lorenz Regler. Welcome.
Hi Opo, welcome everyone. Really excited for this game today.
I think we all can be very excited, because if there is a team in this league, from what we've seen so far, that could really get a little bit of trouble for the Nordic Storm, it's the Paris Musketeers. They're known to be a very physical team, and as we see Elkton, the mascot of the Nordic Storm, and the Nordic Storm about to hit the field, what would you say are the ways to win for the Paris Musketeers in this matchup today?
Well, first of all, I think it's really important to point out that the Nordic Storm have not lost a home game in their franchise history yet. So it might be the first time today the Paris Musketeers actually get a win. And to make that happen, I think it's really important that they play the game like they did last week against the Raiders Tirol. They were down for a very long time, but they never panicked. And they did one thing they haven't done so far this season. They established the run. And I really like that about the Paris Musketeers offense last week. So I think that's one of the most important ways to win, because that means automatically you keep Glenn Tonga and Jadrian Clark off the field.
There we see him, Jadrian Clark, the offensive general of the Nordic Storm. And we have to say the Paris Musketeers are coming into this matchup, and they had to suffer a really bad loss last week because their U.S. import wide receiver Austin Mitchell suffered a season-ending injury. So we're going to see a new U.S. wideout that has been acquired by the Paris Musketeers, named Torrin Justice today. But Lorenz, one has to say, yes, we wish Austin Mitchell all the best, but in general, the Paris Musketeers have not managed to include Austin Mitchell so far into their matchup. I mean, they played 4 matches, and Austin Mitchell, their U.S. import, had solely 8 receptions for 133 yards and not a single touchdown.
I agree, and I was at the game last week, and they kind of got him going in the first half, but then early second half he suffered that injury. Best of wishes, all the best to him, and we'll keep talking about that once the hymns are done.
One of the most famous national anthems worldwide, the Marseillaise, followed by the home team's national anthem, which is the Danish national anthem for the home games of the Nordic Storm. Traditionally, the second part of the Danish national anthem is sung by the spectators here in Gladsaxe Stadium in beautiful Copenhagen. The good thing for both teams, Lorenz, is the heat wave that is hitting Europe so far this weekend did not really arrive in Copenhagen. It's about 71 degrees Fahrenheit, so it's perfect weather to play football, as we see Jack Del Rio, the head coach of the Paris Musketeers. There we have John Shoup. So it's a battle of two NFL coaches facing it up today. So this will be a very interesting chess match.
Yeah, I agree. And one more sentence to Torrin Justice, who came in for Austin Mitchell. I think he's the same kind of player. You mentioned it, Austin Mitchell wasn't as electric as he used to be in the past years. And Torrin Justice is the leading receiver, or comes in as the leading receiver last year. 24 touchdowns he scored in Mexico. He was with the Hamburg Sea Devils before. So I'm excited to see him and see if he already has a connection with Zach Edwards.
Which is actually, I mean, you played wide receiver for a long time, which is actually in such a short period of time, it's actually not possible to really establish a good connection to your quarterback in, I don't know, one practice.
Yeah, it is tough, especially on deep throws, but Torrin Justice is a kind of player that you give the ball in their hands, you know, on screens, on short passes, and he can make big plays out of it, and that's what I expect, especially with that D-line putting pressure on Zach Edwards. Get the ball out quick, establish a run game, and make your playmakers make you look good.
Whitehead Jonas Zeppelin is waving the team captains in for the coin toss here in Gladsaxe Stadium. One thing that stands out when it comes to coin toss, actually the Nordic Storm always wants to have the ball, other than the all other teams that most of the time defer and want to have the ball start off the second half. Nordic Storm always wants to have their offense on the field. So we'll see how this coin toss is going to turn out for either teams.
Matchup. We have some guests to our coin toss. We have Stephen, welcome. We have Mr. Christophe Parisot, Ambassador of France, Mr. Ken Howery, Ambassador of United States, Mr. Hjelte Forhoff, who will be tossing our coin, accompanied by Valdemar. Thank you.
So not only one,
the coin.
3, 4 celebrities that are joining for
heads.
the coin toss.
Tails and heads. What is your call? Heads. Hjelte, you are welcome.
So the Cardinals player is flipping the coin.
It is tails.
And that was a coin flip, to be
On
honest.
you have one. You have chosen to receive. Which way do you want to kick?
And as
Okay,
I said
please turn.
before, naturally the Nordic Storm, if they have the chance to choose, they're taking the ball right away. So the Nordic Storm
everybody.
in
Let's have a
all
good game.
gray against the Paris Musketeers and white jerseys and blue, navy blue pants. We're ready to go. Paris Musketeers are going to kick it off to get you informed about everything. Paris Musketeers, as I said, are coming in with a 3-1 record. Nordic Storm so far unbeaten, 4 victories, no losses. They call him Magic Zach, but Lorenz, the magic we have not really seen this season so far, right?
Not in the ways that we used to, but I still vouch for Magic Zach. 3-1. That one loss against the Ravens, they looked really good in the first half. And there's sparks every now and then. And winning that game last week against the Raiders Tirol, as mentioned, wasn't an easy way. They were down starting second half. They lost their top receiver, and then they found a way to come back and win the game 16 seconds before the end. So maybe it's not as magical as it used to be, but he definitely has still some magic left.
And we can definitely be, very curious about what John Shoup found to work against this very physical Paris Musketeers defense. Dean Faithful, kicker of the Musketeers, is getting us started here in Gladsaxe Stadium. Simon Fons on the return, wide receiver for the Nordic Storm. So at the 31-yard line, Jadrian Clark will take over with the offense of the Nordic Storm. One thing we have to mention, the Paris Musketeers are coming into this game with a disastrous turnover margin. They have a turnover margin of -7 facing the Nordic Storm, and they have a turnover margin of +4. So this is something the Musketeers definitely have to work on today. They cannot afford any turnovers in this matchup.
Kicking team number 3, 15-yard penalty, first down.
So the first personal foul call against the Paris Musketeers.
Yeah, and it's against Amir Kilani. He's a great player, but he sometimes just goes a bit over the top. And starting that with the first play of the game against this high-powered offense, that doesn't help your team at all.
Jadrian Clark from the shotgun. And there we have the running machine of the Nordic Storm, Mr. Glenn Tunga, already over 500 yards rushing and 6 TDs in this season.
Yeah, I'm really happy to see him back. He tore his Achilles last year, but he looks as electric as before and has shown his skill set this season so far.
Even better, I would say, Ludens. He gives me a much quicker, faster impression this season. Empty backfield for the Nordic Storm. 2nd and 4. Jadrian Clark tries to deliver the pass and gets hit very furiously.
Big hit against Jadrian Clark. He's moving his arm right away. I hope he's good, obviously, but that's one of the other ways to win. They have to put pressure on Jadrian Clark. We saw that last week. Frankfurt did that, and he did not feel comfortable back there. Now he rolls out, gets a big hit, can't deliver that pass. That's one way for the Paris Musketeers to win this game today.
Timing was off right away due to the shotgun that did not really come perfectly into the hands of Jadrian Clark. This time much better run play, but good defense by the Paris Musketeers. And this is one way to win this matchup today. The Paris Musketeers defense, they have to find a way to control Glenn Tunga.
Yes, absolutely. You see here, they chose an inside run, but that also tells me they did not even think about punting it here. So I'm pretty sure the offense will stay on the field, even though they're close to midfield, and they will try to get that first down on the 4th and 4 here.
In general, one has to say, football is a game that is played in 3 units, offense, defense, and special teams. Nordic Storm so far this season only play with offense and defense. Oh, tried to find Brendan Bolio, incomplete, so that's a turnover and downs. A small little victory for the Paris Musketeers getting into this game.
Absolutely, he escaped in the flats here. Little high ball, not really necessary, but Brandon Bolio definitely is that kind of receiver that has to come down with that ball, wants to come down with that ball, and you could tell he got to the sideline, took his helmet off, and he was furious that he could not hold on to that ball.
Brandon Bolio already 8 touchdowns, 33 receptions for 499 receiving yards this season. Fullback and halfback for the Musketeers. Zach Edwards with the handoff. Just a small gain of about 1 yard, 2 yards maybe.
I said you know it.
I talked about the turnover margin. Zach Edwards, quarterback of the Paris Musketeers, already delivered 5 interceptions this year. So they really have to take care of the ball Chris Wumbo, the running back behind Zach Edwards, gets the ball. Seemed to find an opening, but then good defense by the Nordic Storm.
Yeah, that defense is matching the physicality of the Paris Musketeers here. I think it's Bufunda in the backfield, if I see it correctly, but it's hard for me, at least, Oku.
Yes, it was Jason Bufunda. I'm sorry.
It's hard for me to see the numbers with those gray and white jerseys, especially on inside runs. But we'll see.
It's going to be a challenge. The new whiteout, Torrent Justice, the inside man on the trips left for the Paris Musketeers. Zach Edwards to throw for the first time, has a lot of time, and now tries to escape and gets a new first down for the Musketeers.
Great protection here. He was really trying to pull that trigger, but couldn't find a man open, and then I think that's where his name comes from, because it's really hard to get him down. I talked about it last week. Every now and then I wish he would slide a little more, but on those plays it's so good that he stays up. It's hard to get down and gets that first down for his offense.
Yeah, nothing sticks on him like one of these fry pans with Teflon. He's like made out of Teflon, one has the impression. From the shotgun again, running back number 33, Jason Bufunda. Bufunda this season already 2 touchdowns, 50 rushes, 207 yards coming into this game.
Yeah, they are relying heavily on him so far, starting that drive. 3 runs already for him. And I think that's one key, like I mentioned pregame, to keep that Nordic Storm offense off the field.
But so far, a solid opening drive for the Paris Musketeers. Again, they try to establish the run game with Jason Bufunda.
And it doesn't look like much, Oku, but it really helps staying in front of the sticks and keeping that defense on the edge, because you know, once they really think the run's gonna come, that's when the Paris Musketeers will put a play action in there, and that could be really dangerous for the Nordic Storm.
And as we know, one of the rules in American football, 3 times 3 is 10. So let's see, empty backfield for Zach Edwards. Tries to throw the ball, has a good protection, finds a man deep, and that's his new whiteout. He is opening the scoring in this matchup. Torrent Justice. That's a way to be welcomed in a brand new league and a brand new team.
If it wasn't for the laundry, Opu, let's see.
Yeah. Jonas Zeppelin, the white hat.
Offensive pass interference, number 8. 10-yard penalty, 3rd down.
Yeah, Hassan Dosso with the pass interference, and I just saw it in the replay. He's a young receiver, and he kind of picks the DB that is supposed to follow Torrent Justice. That's why he was so open. Maybe we can see it in the replay. There it is. He kind of runs into the outside linebacker, and that opens up Torrent Justice on that out and up, which is not allowed. So Dosso should have more acted like he really wanted that ball, ran that route, but he was basically blocking. Unfortunate mistake by the young receiver.
Paris empty, trips to the right. Zach Edwards rolls out to his right, passes. Incomplete. Yeah, but that was a first, although the touchdown had to be called back, that was a first little shock moment for the Nordic Storm. Because they don't know how it is to be behind in a matchup so far. 4th and 13. Now, yes, there will be the punting unit out for the Paris Musketeers. So from the 47-yard line, the punt. Return by Mitch Fettig, but he doesn't really get anywhere. So still scoreless here in Gladsaxe Stadium in Copenhagen. We saw a drive of each team. Musketeers drive a little longer, but not much more impressive or less impressive than what we've seen from the Nordic Storm. Both try to establish the run game first. About 1,300 kilometers was the way to Gladsaxe Stadium for the guys from France, from the French capital Paris to Copenhagen. And off, and here we see Glentunga taking a ball down the field.
Great blocking up front by the O-line, and this is one of the plays where you can tell that Yannick Guadfel, the standout safety, is really missing for that Paris defense, because he did not only make plays in the pass game, he was also very good against the run. And I assume he would have stopped that run faster.
And we saw already number 77, the center of the Nordic Storm, Sven Redman, he is back in the game after he was ejected in the match against the Frankfurt Galaxy because he was in contact with an official, let's put it that way. Wasn't anything serious, but that's a very strict rule in American football. As soon as you put your hands on one of the officials, you find yourself in the showers pretty fast. And there we have Glentunga again running the ball for the Nordic Storm. Makes it a waist down, 2nd and 2, so you got the whole playbook to use. Again, the almost unstoppable Glentunga, almost unstoppable due to the fact that Glentunga is an enormous athlete and due to the fact that he is playing probably behind the strongest O-line in the league.
Yeah, I agree. And like we said before, he looks as fast as ever before, hits those gaps at full speed, and it's so hard to bring him down once he's in the open field.
Jadon Clark to pass to the outside, finds Brendan Bolio, but 2 yards short of the line to gain.
Nice simple out route by Brendan Bolio after not catching the first pass in the game. That's good to get his swag back. Easy catch, couple yards, and brings up another waist down where you can attack that defense.
You already mentioned it, Lorenz. The problem is Yannick Guadafel, the safety of the Paris Musketeers, is missing. And here we see the first deep pass from Jadon Clark to Brendan Bolio. Touchdown, Nordic Storm. And again, Bolio is showing that he has the special gene. Contested balls always arrive in his hands.
We mentioned it, 2nd and 2, that's the perfect time to call a shot. Jadon Clark has all the time and finds his standout receiver on a post. Let's see if he held on to the ball. Looks good to me, Opu.
Looks good to me. That should be a touchdown, and so it is 6-0, and Alvin Gustafsson is trying to convert the PAT so far. 14 of 21 extra points converted, so that's far from being perfect. As I mentioned, Nordic Storm, they still have a construction area which is called special teams. As I'm mentioning it, no extra points, so it's still 6-0 with 6:42 remaining in the first quarter between the Nordic Storm and the Paris Musketeers.
Yeah, and once again, Oku recapping that Nordic Storm drive. Perfect start, getting out of their half with the run game, establishing it. Paris has to adapt to that, and then you hit them with the deep pass over the middle to arguably one of, if not the best receiver in the league, Brandon Volio, with another touchdown. Great offensive play calling by John Schuk and Henry Schlegel.
Definitely the most efficient wideout in the league, the number 19, Brandon Volio. Whether he's the best or not, that's up to discussions. He is not a speed star, but he's got very good hands. And as I said before, if you throw a contested ball, you can be sure 85, almost 90% of the times he is the one who comes down with the ball in his hands. So kick off by the Nordic Storm. That one is out of bounds. That's a yellow flag, so a good field position for the Paris Musketeers.
Storm, ball is placed at the 40-yard line, first down.
What we saw in the first drive of the Paris Musketeers is that Zach Edwards had time in the pocket, but obviously he did not find any wide receiver downfield because the coverage of the defensive backfield of the Nordic Storm was close to perfect so far.
Yeah, the Nordic Storm has one of the most complete defenses from the backfield through the linebackers to that D-line. And then if the D-line is not putting up pressure, you can rely on the DBs covering and vice versa. If the D-line is really applying pressure, it's hard for Zach Edwards to find open players. So we'll see. I stick with it. I think Paris should focus on establishing the run and then try to get the ball out quick to their playmakers.
Yeah, they have to get the ball into the hands of Torrent Justice, Hugo Tekedam, Rémi Berthelin, their wide receiving playmaker. We have the first timeout taken in this matchup. There we see Rémi Berthelin, number 5. And there is number 12, Hugo Tekedam, already 5 touchdowns this season.
We can see Jack Del Rio arguing with the refs because you do not want to take a timeout starting your drive. So I think there was some miscommunication probably with the refs. We're still in the first half, so let's hope it doesn't backfire taking a timeout starting the drive that early in the game.
Yeah, we're often talking about this timeout management, but if there is one coach in this league that shouldn't have a problem with that due to his experience, it's Jack Del Rio. Altogether 35 years coaching in the NFL, 8 years at the head coach position for the Jacksonville Jaguars and 2 years for the Oakland Raiders back at that time before they moved to Las Vegas. First and 10 for the Musketeers on their own 40-yard line. Zach Edwards is keeping the ball, but is welcomed by Aslan Zetterberg.
Yeah, and that was the first time the Nordic Storm showed pressure, brought pressure. Even if he would have handed it off, Mitch Fettig would have been there. So you can see a really aggressive defense here for the Nordic Storm.
Tight formation, trips bunch to the left side. Run game for the Musketeers, but that is stopped directly. And did that ball come out?
They were definitely trying to rip it out, but I think Bufunda held on to that ball. And yeah, now you're behind the sticks on 3rd and 15, which makes it your playbook very one-dimensional.
And you mentioned it already. This is a star-struck defense of the Nordic Storm. Luke Glenner, Mitch Fettig, Ludwig Nieren, Hugo Dürendal, Marcel Berg, Aslan Zetterberg. It's an unbelievable cast that the Storm has there on defense. Deep pass by Zach Edwards, and that's the first turnover in this match. And there he is, number 14, Marcel Berg with the interception.
And this one is personal. Marcel Berg, he is French. He had NFL experience, and apparently he got ready for it with a little celebration with the cheerleaders.
Well, finally we found out what Nordic Storm is doing in their practices.
Yeah. Zach Edwards was trying to make something happen here. Rolling out to the left, throwing deep is always hard. Marcel Berg was in a better position. Comes down with the pick. And for the Paris Musketeers, the good way to look at it, it basically was a punt. So Nordic Storm starts now in their own 15, at their own 15-yard line.
If that would have been a rollout to the right, I'm telling you, this pass would have been complete. But Zach Edward had to roll out to the left, and that, as a right-hander, is simply complicated because you have to turn your whole upper body. And then we saw it, he was jumping, he was flying through the air while throwing that pass. And jumping through the gaps is Glenn Tunga. But there is some penetration of the Paris Musketeers. It's simply that number 45 was a little late to get the tackle. Ilan Barbas, linebacker. Oh, Simon Fons, number 1, the white out of the Nordic Storm. Is he? Yes, he is going all the way.
Wow, what a play design, Opu. The handoff to Glenn Tunga, then faking the pitch to Brandon Boglio, which they did a couple of times already this season, and then hitting Simon Fons on that screen. We'll see it here. First fake. And then he's gone. Faster than Jay Liggins here down the sideline. And this is the magic of Henrik Schlegel and John Schub in one office together.
Henrik Schlegel, the German coaching talent, one has to say, that has been promoted from quarterbacks coach to offensive coordinator 2 weeks ago. Alongside the contract extension of John Schub, who's going to stay with the Nordic Storm, that are trying a 2-point conversion, but this is not working out, although they're running it with Glenn Tunga, so it stays with 12-0, the lead for the Nordic Storm. Elkton can celebrate a little bit.
Let's see if we can see it one more time. No, unfortunately we see the stop 2-point one more time, but that play design by that Nordic Storm offense was really amazing. And you're up to an early start now so far, and I think the biggest challenge for the Nordic Storm is now to not jump ahead, because we know what matchup is coming up next week.
Oh yeah, next week they are visiting beautiful Bavaria. The Nordic Storm is hitting Munich to battle it up with the Munich Ravens. This is in week 7 of the EFA, of the European Football Alliance. And we're waiting for the kickoff. deep drive down outside the end zone. So no return possible.
Always straight to the end zone for a touchback, 35-yard line.
Four minutes to go in the first quarter, 12-0, the lead for the home team, for the Nordic Storm. One touchdown by Brent Bolio, the second one by Simon Fons. Zach Edwards with a quick pass to the outside, finds Hugo Tekedam, who gets about 4 yards.
Yeah,
funny thing, Lorenz, head coach Jack Del Rio told us in an interview that the fact why he is head coach in Paris is actually, it was an 80% decision of his wife, because she used to be a ballet dancer and is very much into cultural things, and that's why Paris for them was the place to be. So we say all thank you to Mr. Rio that we have Jack Del Rio in this league as a head coach. Zach Edwards, next deep pass, trying to hit number 84, Torrent Justice, who wants to have a pass interference call, but I think that is not coming.
Ball was a little bit underthrown, but he goes back to the ball. DB is not turning around, so I can see his claim here why he wants that PI, especially because that arm is wrapped around his arm. He might have not came up with that ball, but that's how they teach it. That's how you get it taught as a receiver, to go back through the DB to at least get the penalty. Unfortunately, he doesn't get it here.
So 3rd and 6, next problematic situation for the Paris Musketeers. Trips to the right, empty backfield. Zach Edwards rolls out to the right, throws the ball, incomplete.
Yeah, and once again, this time Hassan Dosso is complaining to the refs that he was held. Zach Edwards was jumping and throwing again. I don't think that's the best decision, but he tries to make something happen. Dosso was not really ready for that ball, and I don't think it would have been catchable either.
Well, for my taste, the Paris Musketeers should stop complaining with the referees and should start playing football. 4th and 6, punting unit for the Musketeers. Good long snap. Good punt. And a return up to the 20-yard line. Edwin Almeida, the returner. Excellent wide receiver.
Yeah, another big playmaker for that Nordic Storm offense and special teams. But he is the 3rd, sometimes 4th option behind Miranda, Bolio, Font. So I do understand why he feel that punt here at the 1-yard line to get himself going and get a little return going.
Yeah, in general, a risky thing to pick up that punt at the 3-yard line and just let it bounce into the end zone. Glentunga, play action fake. Javian Clark to the outside. Next completion to Brandon Bolio, who is already deep in Musketeers territory.
And we've seen that play plenty times so far this season already. Play action fake to Glentunga. Javian Clark has all the time in the world back there, and Brandon Bolio comes across over the field 15 to 20 yards deep, and then has a lot of space to make even more yards.
So 1st and 10, naturally, Javian Clark goes empty. Pass to the outside, number 87, that's Roberto Miranda, German-Portuguese tight end of the Nordic Storm.
Yeah, Roberto Miranda, another electric playmaker. Played in the US at college. Was with the Stuttgart Surge last year, and now as an import with the Nordic Storm. Great playmaker, but at the same time, Opu, he hasn't touched the ball so far this game. That was his first catch, and they didn't even need him yet, you know. So that just tells you how good that Nordic Storm offense is.
2nd and 7. Jadon Clark goes deep, tries to find Simon Fons. What a grab!
All it takes is a chance. That's what I kept telling my quarterbacks as well. Just give me a chance, quarterback. And he makes it happen with one hand, Simon Fons, and now they're lining up really fast.
Because I don't think that he had both feet in bounds.
Let's see here.
No,
we don't see the feet,
unfortunately.
But the ball was snapped.
There is the touchdown for the Nordic Storm. Wow, what a catch. What a one-hander. Simon Fons already with one touchdown, and this absolute prime catch. And here we see again how Glenn Tunga is pushing that ball over the goal line.
Yeah, and that's one thing the Nordic Storm do as good as any other teams. But we see the 2-point here once again.
It's all a little bit too easy if you're looking at it from the perspective of the Paris Musketeers. So far, the defensive backfield of the Paris Musketeers has no chance to battle the receiving crew of the Nordic Storm.
Yeah, I agree. And Simon Fons with another great catch. Even though he lost the ball in the end, he had control over it. And speaking of that one-hander again, down the sideline. In the end, it doesn't matter if he came down with it or not, because the Nordic Storm are so good coached, so well coached, that they have a signal that if those kind of plays where you're not 100% sure if you caught that ball or not, they line up as fast as possible to get an inside run going, so the Paris Musketeers do not have any chance to challenge the play or let the replay decide if it was incomplete or not. And then if you have Glenn Tunga there, might as well just turn it into a touchdown.
20 zip, and we still have about 90 seconds to play in the first quarter here in Gladsaxe Stadium in Copenhagen. Beautiful weather, not as hot as it is in the rest of Europe.
35-yard line.
About 71 degrees Fahrenheit. There we see Jacob Green. And the Paris Musketeers are already heavily under pressure. They really somehow have to get some points on the board and have to get a drive going. But what we said beforehand is not working out at all. They don't manage to keep Jadon Clark off the field so far. Torrin Justice, the wide receiver on the right side of the offense. Again, run play with Jason Bufunda. Yeah, and a couple of guys are having intensive talks with each other. Second and 9. Take it down in motion. Again, the run play of the Musketeers. Maximum half a yard they gain with each run. Unbelievable strong defensive line and linebacker unit with the Nordic Storm.
Yeah. Motion from Hugo Tekedam before the play. They try to move the defense, but they are not fooled. And no gain at all for Gufunda here.
It's so impressive. Gufunda, most of the times when he's carrying the ball, he's not even getting to the linebacker level, because this strong defensive line of the Nordic Storm most of the time has a grab on him. There's a cornerback blitz. Zach Edwards escapes, completes to a Tekedam for a new first down. And that was it with the first quarter here in Copenhagen. 20-0 the lead for the home team, the Nordic Storm.
Timeout. Take it easy.
Week 6 of the European Football Association, 20-0 the score after the first quarter between the Nordic Storm and the Paris Musketeers. So far the Musketeers are really not moving the ball offensively and defensively. Their defensive backfield at the moment has no chance against this receiving core that is getting the balls delivered by Jadrian Clark of the Nordic Storm. Pass from Zach Edwards, and he finds his newly acquired wide receiver, Torrin Justice, number 84, who steps in for Austin Mitchell.
Loses his helmet here while getting tackled, but holds on to the ball, and I think that's the receipt now. That was shortly before the first quarter ended, the first down for the Paris Musketeers since their opening drive, and now they have to stay ahead of the sticks. While the refs are discussing
within the officials.
Personal foul, illegal use of helmet, defense number 0, 15-yard penalty, first down.
Okay, a 15-yard penalty against the Nordic Storm, a team which is normally not really getting a lot of flags called against them.
Yeah, and I don't know if I agree with that call, Opu, to be honest. Yes, he lost his helmet, but this is a receiver thing. They often do not close their straps, and in the replay it didn't look like helmet to helmet to me.
First and 10 for the Paris Musketeers. First time they're a little deeper in Nordic Storm territory. 1st and 10 at the Nordic Storm 29-yard line. Another foul.
Offense number 72, 5-yard penalty, first down.
And these are the things that the Musketeers cannot afford to have today. Turnovers and these false start holding penalties that they keep getting. Although one has to say within the last couple of years, the Paris Musketeers really improved if we're looking at the amount of flags they are getting called against them. Zach Edwards from the shotgun, running back. Jason Bufunda, play action fake. Zach Edwards goes deep in the direction of the end zone. And there's a touchdown for the Paris Musketeers. Najem Lokman, or Lokman Najem, if we have to put it in the right way. So
Great
the
play
Paris
design here.
Musketeers are on the board.
Yeah, great play design here, coming out with 2 tight ends and 1 running back, and then hitting a play action pass down the field, and Magic Zach puts his team on his back and scores the first touchdown for the Paris Musketeers.
Finally, something to cheer for the Paris Musketeer fans that took this 1,300-kilometer trip from the French capital to Copenhagen. Extra point is up, and he sends it down the main road. New score: Nordic Storm 20, Paris Musketeers 7. So that's a positive start into the second quarter for the Paris Musketeers.
Absolutely, and that last first down by Hubert Tekkedam before the first quarter ended really changed the dynamic of the Paris offense, because they realized again, okay, we can move that ball, and they just stay true to themselves, stay consistent, and then hit them with a play action pass when they did not expect it. We might have a game here, Opel.
We might have a game here. The thing is, the Paris Musketeers defense, they somehow have to find a way to stop this man with number 7 on his shirt, to stop Glenn Tunga. We're waiting for the kickoff. Dean Faithful. British kicker for the Paris Musketeers. Drives it down the field. So we have a touchback, and the Nordic Storm is hitting the field again with Jadrian Clark, who already, I think, by the passes he threw today, surpassed the 1,500 yards passing milestone in this season. And this is game number 5 they're playing, so you can do the math yourself. These are pretty impressive stats that Jadrian Clark is having with the offense of the Nordic Storm. See Brent Bolio, number 19. 1st and 10 at the 35. Run play, but good work from the defense of the Paris Musketeers. They did not fall for these fakes that Jadrian Clark did before he handed off to Glenn Tunga.
And then it's Big Mama Ducey there with his tackle. One of the toughest defensive tackles in the league.
Already has 3 quarterback sacks in his stat sheet in this season. 2nd and 14. Jadrian Clark trying to pass it. Jadrian Clark goes deep, incomplete. Good defensive work by Jamalcolm Liggins.
And that's the first time he got the better of Brandon Bolio, one of the matchups going into the game that we knew would be important for the Paris Musketeers to win, but so far Brandon Bolio came down with a couple balls against him, and this time, the first time, Malcolm Liggins can deflect the ball going to Brandon Bolio.
And as we saw in the slow-mo, it might as well could have been a holding call against the right tackle of the Nordic Storm. That was a really warm and welcoming embracement, let's put it that way. Screen to Brandon Bolio on the inside, and he still has the ball and is getting a new first down for the Nordic Storm.
And that's the difference between the Nordic Storm and the Paris Musketeers. 3rd and 14, and they just know, they trust their offensive line. They know if they get the ball into Brandon Bolio's hand on the screen, he can still get that first down, and he shows that here impressively.
Brandon Bolio so far is playing an absolute impressive season for the Nordic Storm. And naturally, as you mentioned, Lorenz, playing those screens with this offensive line, it must be so much fun to run behind those guys. Run play attempted, but again, good defensive work by the Paris Musketeers. And we have to admit, I mean, the Paris Musketeers, they have one of those defensive geniuses as their head coach. Jack Del Rio is known to be an absolute defensive specialist. Played defense himself, was a linebacker in the NFL for a lot of years. So 2nd and 9 for the Nordic Storm. Tight formation for the Nordic Storm. Pitch to Glenn Tunga, and Glenn Tunga is taking it down the field for the next first down for the Nordic Storm.
Great run down the left side. Look at those blockers up front, Oku. Like you mentioned, it's so easy to run behind them here. It's almost 15-20 yards down the field until he gets touched the first time. But nevertheless, Oku, to me, it seems like the Paris Musketeers finally accepted that fight going into that second quarter.
I was about to say that they're accepting the fight, and they seem to have found something that at least pressures the run of the Nordic Storm a little more. But it's 1st and 10. Jadrian Clark pump fakes, goes deep and has a man downfield, and that's the next touchdown for the Nordic Storm, Edwin Almeida. And if I'm looking into his stat sheet, that's the first touchdown for Edwin Almeida in this season. Beforehand, he had 315 receiving yards, but that's his first visit to the Holy Land.
And that must feel good for him, because he had a couple of great plays in the games before, but like you said, never found the end zone. And now scoring wide open down the right sideline. Jadrian Clark makes it look easy.
Nordic Storm is going for the point after touchdown, not for a 2-point conversion. The kick is up, and the kick is good. 26-7, the new score on the scoreboard in Gladsaxe Stadium in Copenhagen. So the Nordic Storm is able to answer the first score of the Musketeers right away. John Shoup can be satisfied with what he has seen so far from his team, offensive and defensive-wise. But naturally, you know it yourself, Lorenz, a coach is never satisfied.
Especially Coach John Shoup. He always finds something that he wants his guys, his teams, to be better at, to get better at. But he also knows that it's a process throughout the season, and he mentions that a lot, that now is not the time they have to play their best football. It's a progress, and I think he's very happy with where they are right now.
The latest when they have to find their perfect football is 15th and 16th of August, when it comes to the Big Four, the playoff tournament of the European Football Alliance, played in Frankfurt. Get your tickets right now online at ticketmaster.com. Return for the Paris Musketeers. Good return. And the Musketeers are hitting the field again with Zach Edwards. Return was Lokman Najim. Defend the North. So far, there has not been that much to defend, to be honest. Zach Edwards from the shotgun. Jason Bufunda running back next to him. Zach Edwards tries to escape the pocket, but they get him from behind. Khalid Adisa, the cornerback, coming from the other side and getting a hold of the legs
number 87,
of Zach Edwards.
10-yard penalty, first down.
Yeah, and they get that kind of pressure while some guys are getting held. That just shows how the Nordic Storm also create pressure in the offensive backfield. And that's a penalty you do accept, even though that sack for Adisa then gets deleted off the stat sheet.
Well, only Adisa, I think, is complaining about that, because now it's 1st and 20 for the Paris Musketeers. Zach Edwards with the quick pass to the outside, finds Sheikh Sao, who was very, very quiet so far this season, one has to say, because it's an excellent wideout.
Yeah, the Paris Musketeers used him more in the return game. In the receiver game, he's number 4 on the depth chart right now. But like you said, has a couple of guys like Hugo Tekedam and Remy Berthain ahead of him. And like we mentioned before, the Paris Musketeers offense has not been really stand out so far this season.
Flush doubles, 2 wide receivers on each side. Bufunda goes out on the swing pass, but the ball is going to Hugo Tekedam. But far from being a new first down for the Paris Musketeers. So I guess it's about 3rd and 10, maybe 3rd and 9 for the franchise from the French capital. So still 3rd and 12 even. And that is one of the problems of the Paris Musketeers, because there is not much of a miracle now what they're going to call. Timeout taken.
Paris, second team timeout.
So they do want to talk it over. That's a very, very important 3rd down, 3rd and 12 for the Paris Musketeers. They have to keep this drive alive if they want to somehow get a foot into this matchup. Offensive coordinator for the Paris Musketeers is John Hooker, who's already having a second job, which is general manager of the Paris Musketeers. So his days obviously have more than 24 hours. We could also call him Mr. Musketeers this season. So that's Zach Edwards calling the play in the huddle for the Musketeers. After 1 year of not playing football, he is back, empty backfield. Zach Edwards has time, throws the ball, that's complete. Hugo Tekedam, and he goes down 20 to the 10-yard line of the Nordic Storm.
Yeah, somehow got lost in the pass coverage here by the Nordic Storm. That's the first time today that actually someone was so wide open for the Paris Musketeers, and Magic Zach found him rolling out to the right. Got a little pressure, but like you said, had enough time to keep his eyes down the field. And Hugo Tekedam takes it almost the distance.
And they did really lose him in coverage because he was all alone on that patio. Nobody close. 8 minutes to play in the first half, 27-7 in favor of the Nordic Storm. Zach Edwards, trips bunch to the left. Edwards with the run play, handing it off to his number 33, Jason Bufunda.
Inside run behind that big offensive line here by Jason Bufunda, and it doesn't look like much, but those 3 yards on first down do open up the playbook.
And they're at the 10-yard line of the Nordic Storm. Zach Edwards pass to the outside, trying to find Torrin Justice. And there is a flag flying in, which I don't really see, I have to admit.
Yeah, I agree with you, Opu, here. One small thing, Adisa stepped half a yard outside before the ball was snapped. That makes the release on a fade for the receiver way harder, and then I think he's just in great coverage. I don't see too much contact here.
Defense, number 25. Ball is placed at the spot of foul. First down.
But the ref saw one.
The ref saw it, and as there is this rule in American football, the refs are always right. So this call against the Nordic Storm. So that's an automatic first down, first and goal at the 2-yard line of the Nordic Storm. Close field, actually. Zach Edwards from the shotgun, rolls out to his right, pass is incomplete. Again, trying to find Hugo Tekedam, who is by far the #1 target for Zach Edwards this whole season.
Yeah, absolutely. They really built a connection over the last couple of years, even though Zach Edwards was gone last year, did not play for the Musketeers last year. He came back and really established that connection with Hugo Tekedam again, even though they cannot connect here on first and goal.
Second goal for the Musketeers. Tekedam and Justice, the twins to the outside on the left. Hand off, but Jason Bufunda is met for minus yards by Hugo Durendal.
Shoots through the A-gap here, almost unblocked, and then a safe tackle by Hugo Durendal, the homegrown linebacker for the Nordic Storm. And that's a big play on second and goal.
Yeah, Damian Erup, the center of the Musketeers, had no chance to block the linebacker of the Nordic Storm. So it's third and goal. Oh, condensed formation, heavy setup, the tush push French version. But I think that was not enough. It's fourth down. So what would be your call now, Lorenz? Are you going for the field goal, or are you doing a second tush push?
I would maybe, I don't know if I would go for a tush push again, even though the Musketeers did score with that play already, but I would definitely go for it and try to get that touchdown here to keep the game at least a little closer.
So another, in rugby they would call it a scrum. In football we call it a tush push. And the Nordic Storm is celebrating. They held the Musketeers a couple inches short. No touchdown for the Paris Musketeers. Nordic Storm, okay, they have an absolute disastrous field position now, but at least they held the Musketeers out of the end zone.
Yeah, and if we do get a replay, you can see how Zach Edwards kind of got higher and higher and could not push his feet into the ground. You see it here on the right side now. They really keep holding him up, and he cannot move forward with his upper body where the ball is pressed against his chest. So great defensive play here by the Nordic Storm. No chance for the Musketeers.
Yeah, there we saw it wonderfully in the slow motion. Thank you very much for these great pictures that we're seeing here. Well, it's pretty hard to push yourself into the end zone if your feet are not touching the ground. So great work from the Nordic Storm defense here. Goal line defense held, but the officials are checking again.
Taking another look at it. Exactly, but you know, Opu, it has to be definite that he crossed the goal line, otherwise that call will stand. And just think of Jalen Hurts when he does the tush push, how low he is and how many bodies lay on top of him once he scored. It's the exact opposite here, and you can see how he is getting pushed back here, so I don't think they will overturn that call.
It's so hard to see the ball at all in this pile of human beings. And this is like something where it doesn't matter how many camera perspectives you have, because it's simply a pile of people and you can't even spot the ball.
Rolling on the field, off short of touchdown, stance as called. It will be first down, Nordic Storm.
So not enough evidence to overrule it, I would say. So the call stands as called. Goal line stand for the Nordic Storm. Unbelievable, great work of Mark DeLeone's defensive unit of the Nordic Storm. 5 minutes 30 to play in the second quarter, and the Nordic Storm now has a huge, long field in front of them. Starting from their own 1 yard line. But that's the impressive thing one has to hand to those French fans of the Musketeers. They're always in a good mood. It doesn't matter what the score is. They're always in a good mood. Jadon Clark with the pass to Brendan Bolio. And they're outside the critical territory. Catches the ball, is stopped at the 6 or 7 yard line.
Yeah, that's an interesting play called, Opu. If you have Glenn Tunga and this O-line at the 1 yard line to really put Jadon Clark under pressure, you could see he was like getting really close to his own back of the end zone, but then delivered the ball to Brendan Bolio, and that gives you enough space now to operate the playbook.
Plus, one shouldn't forget, if there is a holding by an offensive lineman in the end zone, you're getting a safety. So that was, problems with handling the ball there. There was some miscommunication in the Nordic Storm offense. For the first time in this match, we see miscommunication.
Yeah, and the Nordic Storm do get lucky that the snap somehow finds its way to Jadon Clark, and then he makes a wise decision and just goes down. Does not force the turnover here or anything, and lives to play another down.
So they're not only so far the better team on the pitch, they're also a little lucky.
Timeout, Storm.
Timeout taken by the Nordic Storm. Henry Schlegel and head coach John Schub definitely want to talk this situation over. Because in general, because of this miscommunication and this clumsy handling of the ball from the shotgun, they're back to where they were at the 1 or 2 yard line. But don't be misled. Those two there, Henry Schlegel and John Schub, they can call everything. Even in this field position, they don't really care. And if I mentioned the Big Four tournament, 15th and 16th of August in Frankfurt, the final, the championship game of the EFA will take place on the 29th of August in the beautiful Tivoli Stadium in Innsbruck. For everybody who is heading there, concentrate on football, because with this sight from the stadium, you tend to just look into the beautiful Alps. It's kind of hard to concentrate on American football in that stadium. Already whistled that.
Offense.
And this is something that should definitely not happen. You're coming out of a timeout that you called yourself, and then you're having a delay of game. So now they're definitely back to where they started with this drive.
Interesting to see, though, even though it was a delay of game, Chadron Clark did not plan on handing off that ball. So I think they will again go for the first down here, deep in their own territory.
Well, the way the ball is placed, they have problems in punting from there because, I mean, the punter needs some room. Chadron Clark, pass to the outside. That's complete. And that's a gain of about 5, but far from being a new first down. Naturally,
yeah, screen pass.
Glentunga.
Yeah, screen pass to Glentunga here. This time the offensive line cannot release as fast, so they are not as far ahead of Glentunga to block. But I think it was still pretty close. You see here, 4th and 1. They still do decide to punt the ball away here.
No, you have to pray for the long snapper that he is doing a good job. That worked out. At least they got the ball out, but it's definitely going to be a good field position for the Paris Musketeers. Exactly, midfield, that's where their drive is going to start. 7:27 from the perspective of the Paris Musketeers, as we have 3 minutes and 16 seconds on the clock in the first half. Zach Edwards and the offense of the Paris Musketeers. Play action fake. He's going deep, trying to hit again his newly acquired wide receiver, Torrin Justice. But there is not that much of communication yet between those two.
Yeah, we talked about it before the game. We talked about it before the game. It's really hard to get a connection going if you have 1 or 2 or 3 practices, but maybe.
Pass interference, defense, number 2. Ball is placed at the spot of foul, first down.
They saw something we did not see, because to me it looked like clean coverage again, but Torrin Justice is hard to cover on those deep balls, and he got his flag here, the one he should have gotten in the first quarter, he gets now.
I was about to say in the first quarter there were like 2 half interferences against him, and this sums up to 1 pass interference that they called right now. But no, just joking. 1st and 10 for the Paris Musketeers on the 19-yard line of the Nordic Storm. Shuffle pass to the front, trying Tambu Sao to carry the ball. Brother of Sheku Sao.
Tambu Sao, a young tight end that the Paris Musketeers were really excited for heading into the season. So far, he has not really got going in the pass game. He has been a contributor in the run game, but maybe we'll see that today with more targets over the middle.
So 2nd and about 6 for the Musketeers. Pass incomplete, trying to hit Hugo Tekedam, who was in double coverage.
Yeah, play action here, and then a slant by Hugo Tekedam. That was a tight window, but he got his hands on the ball. One hand at least, could not bring it in though. Tough catch.
Yeah, pass a little bit in the back of the wide receiver. He had to twist and turn, trying to get a hold of that ball. Forget the graphics. It's not 1st and 10, it's 3rd and 6. Roll out. Zach Edwards goes to the end zone. Incomplete. Again trying to hit Hugo Tekedam, this time in the end zone, but good defensive work by the Nordic Storm.
Yeah, great defensive work. The defensive back was even in the better position to make the play here. And Hugo Tekedam somehow turned into a DB himself to swat that ball down.
Jumilson Moreira Ferreira, what a name. Number 2, the defensive back that just defended the ball. And the Musketeers are going for the field goal. Dean Faithful. Ball is up and it is through. The Musketeers are adding 3 points to their score. So it's a 27-10. For Dean Faithful, it is the second field goal of the season out of 3 attempts. So the Musketeers needed 2 drives with very good field position to add 3 points to the scoreboard.
Yeah.
Which will only get the Paris Musketeers fans to be very optimistic, to be honest. It's still a hard-fought battle against this undoubtful, very, very strong defensive unit of the Nordic Storm. But if we want to see it positively for the Musketeers, they held Jadrian Clark off the field for quite a while now. This ball bounces into the end zone, so we have a touchback. The 35-yard line, the Nordic Storm will get the ball.
For a touchback at the 20-yard line.
Oh, 20-yard line, sorry. A little bit more than 3 minutes for Jadrian Clark to add some more points to the 27 that they already have, the Nordic Storm.
Yeah, and you mentioned it, Opu. It took them 2 drives with really good field position to only score 3 points in the end, but nevertheless, so far they're winning the second quarter. And after the disaster start in the first quarter, being down 20-0, I think that's the way to go for the Paris Musketeers. And now it's very important for them to not get another score.
But Brenton Bolio got the ball for this bubble screen on the outside and makes a massive gain. Yeah, here we see it in the slow motion. I think it's not really a piece of cake to tackle Brenton Bolio because he is also a wide receiver that likes contact.
52 offense, half the distance to the goal, first down.
Oh, but the next flag against the Nordic Storm.
Yeah, so what looked like good blocking ended up being a penalty. We did not see it in the replay yet, but it was probably too early to contact down the field, and therefore Nordic Storm offense moves backwards.
Well, it was good blocking. Unfortunately for Nordic Storm, it was not following the rules of American football. So Jadrian Clark again, little pump fake under pressure, has to throw the ball out, and this has to be an intentional grounding call.
Yeah,
because he only flipped that thing out to avoid the safety. And there we see the yellow hankies on the floor. I think there is not much of a discussion. There was no pass receiver in the area. He was definitely in the pocket.
There was, but for some reason the Paris Musketeers defense is moving backwards, so maybe there's 2 penalties on the play, which the refs are discussing right now.
Here we see it again. Jadrian Clark under pressure, tries to roll out, is in the end zone, and then throws out the ball. There was no late hit.
By both teams on the play. Intentional grounding, offense number 3. After the play was over, unsportsmanlike conduct, Defense number 9. That is his first towards a potential disqualification. The fouls will offset. We will replay first down.
Roderick Daniels, U.S. import, number 9 for the Paris Musketeers, did not do a good job for his unit because that would have been an intentional grounding call. A loss of down comes with it, and it would have been an excellent field position again for the Paris Musketeers.
This is the 2-minute warning.
So 2 more minutes to play in Gladsaxe Stadium in beautiful Copenhagen. We see the sun is shining, but the temperatures are not reading as badly as they do in the rest of Europe. Here up in the north of Europe in Copenhagen, there are absolute perfect temperatures to play football, around 20 degrees Celsius, which is around 70 Fahrenheit. Jack Del Rio has some discussion to do.
Yeah, and I get that he has discussion to do, because that penalty was after the play, and therefore it should not be offsetting penalties. The safety should stand, and then that penalty should be enforced on the next play, and I think that's what they are discussing right now.
So a little schooling of the rules from Jack Del Rio probably. Now the Whitehead is heading to John Shoup. But still, I have to hand it to John Shoup. This season, he seems to be so relaxed. Copenhagen seems to have a good influence on the head coach of the Nordic Storm.
I talked to him last year, and he said that city is just so peaceful, and he's so happy to call this place his home. And I agree. Like, he's been a lot calmer than he used to be. But let's now listen to the ref.
To the Whitehead, what the decision is. So, no additional announcement. He's simply going to get us into the game again.
Oh, I don't like that at all, Opu.
Kind of weird. 1st and 20 that should be for the Nordic Storm. Jadrian Clark with the pass to Brendan Bolio. He is gang tackled by the Musketeers, but is still on his feet. Some discussion going on there. Again, we're coming out of the slow motion, and Jadrian Clark already delivered the next pass to Brendan Bolio over the middle.
Yeah, and interesting to see, even though with a 27-7 lead here, the Nordic Storm decide to go for it in the 2-minute drill and add more points before the half. So going with a no-huddle offense here.
Well, there are a couple players that have issues with each other. No real deep friendships developing within the first 2 quarters here in Gladsaxe Stadium.
False start, offense. This foul includes a 10-second runoff. Please reset the game clock to 1 minute and 2 seconds, and the play clock to 30 seconds. They will start on my signal.
And to listen to the Whitehead, we noticed even for the referees, this is sport. He was trying to find his breath while announcing the penalty. I mean, they really have something to do on the field. They really have to do some running. So pressure on Jadrian Clark, but he gets the ball out over the middle. And naturally, his whiteout is coming down with the ball, and this time it's Edwin Almeida.
What a perfect throw here by Jadrian Clark. Down the middle, steps up in the pocket and delivers a perfect strike to Edwin Almeida.
Defense, that penalty is declined. Result of the play is a first down.
Perfect job as you analyzed it. There was pressure on Jadrian Clark. He stepped up into the pocket and then delivered this beam to Edwin Almeida. Naturally, 1st and 10 with 46 seconds to go in the first half. Brendan Bolio, single wide out here on the lower side of the screen. Jadrian Clark scanning the field, going for Bolio. Unbelievable. An incomplete pass in the direction of Brendan Bolio.
Yeah, the second time Jamaican Liggins gets the better of Brendan Bolio here. Let's see if he did touch that ball. Yes, a little touch by Jamaican Liggins, and I think that's the reason why Brendan Bolio could not
Very
go down
good
with that
defensive
ball.
work. Very good defensive work. One hand on the hip of the wide receiver, the other hand goes for the ball. He deflects it. Perfect work by number 0, Jamaican Liggins. Clark goes over the middle, finds his wide out. And this is his tight end, Roberto Miranda.
Yeah, Roberto Miranda with his second catch of the day. Over the middle, inside the 10, and just real quick, the graphic still says 27-7. I think it should be 27-10, right, Oku?
Yes, 27-10, because the field goal was actually good for the Paris Musketeers, and if we're checking online it is 27-10, while Jadrian Clark is trying to find Edwin Almeida, who runs into a white wall, or gets welcomed by a white truck in the end zone, gets run over one way or the other. This was not a warm welcome for Edwin Almeida in the end zone of the Paris Musketeers. That's for sure. 10 seconds till halftime.
Timeout. Show 10 seconds. Team timeout.
So timeout, Nordic Storm, if I got that correctly, with 10 seconds on the clock. Naturally, John Schub and Henry Schlegel, they want another score. They still have another timeout if the graphics are correct. So they could try to run one more play, take a quick timeout, and then still hit the field goal. But as I said before, the field goal kicking unit of the Nordic Storm is not really prime.
Yeah, and it makes a whole difference for you as well if you drive down that field side a 2-minute drill and you end it with a touchdown. So I'm pretty sure the Nordic Storm will go for that touchdown regardless of the next play.
We should not forget the Paris Musketeers are receiving the ball beginning of the third quarter, because the Nordic Storm took the ball beginning of this game. Jadrian Clark under pressure. Quarterback sack against Jadrian Clark by big, huge number 99, Timur Litvinov.
Yeah, tries to find a man down the field, cannot, and then once he's sacked, you can see his hands coming together, calling that timeout, so they get one more shot to the end zone with 2 seconds left on the clock.
Two seconds to play, whether the Nordic Storm is scoring another time before we hit into the locker rooms or not. Lorenz, what does the Musketeers have to do in the second half? What do they have to do better? They showed some good things.
Exactly, like I said, until 2 seconds before the half. Right now they're winning this second quarter, and they kind of found their rhythm and accepted that fight in the second quarter. So I think they just need to improve. They get the ball first in the second half, put a score up, and with that safety, it could be a 27-12 actually, and that would be, yeah, just 15 points difference, but now I think it's very important for them to keep the Nordic Storm out of the end zone first.
Glenn Tunga next to Jadrian Clark, but it's going to be a pass into the end zone, incomplete. So the Musketeers are holding the Nordic Storm outside of the end zone with a 27-10 score in favor of the Nordic Storm. We're heading into halftime. These were two exciting first quarters here in Gladsaxe Stadium in Copenhagen. Jörg Opur-Popik and Lorenz Regler, we are back for the start of the second half.
This is the end of the first quarter, second quarter, halftime.
Yeah. You ready? Hey. Let's go. Back. I'm at my prime. I don't need your endorsement. I don't need reinforcement. Giving you your last warning, cause I'm at my prime. Yeah. I'm at my prime. Whoa. wrapped around. It's Lewis Geyer. He's got space, streaking towards the goal line. He's in. Touchdown. Four, 3-2, touchdown! Touchdown, William Patterson.
We see the first players are coming out of the locker room, hitting the field again at Gladsaxe Stadium, where we saw two absolute opposing quarters so far, Lorenz Riegler. We saw the first quarter where Nordic really hit the Paris Musketeers like a storm. No chance for the Musketeers in the first quarter, but in the second quarter, they seem to have found some recipes against this explosive offense of Nordic Storm.
Yeah, I agree. They somehow did not start good into this game, even though they held them on the first drive, but then, like you said, conceded 20 points unanswered. But it kind of felt like that last play before the quarter ended flipped the switch for the Paris Musketeers. They got a first down, and then they kind of felt like, okay, we got this thing going. We know what to do. We know how to play football. And the Nordic Storm is just another team that we're facing. And they won that second quarter now with 10-7. And I think that's one thing they have to keep going now. They get the ball starting the second half. So it's really important to put up points now, make it a 10-point game in best case, and then really keep exacting that fight for 4 quarters against this really tough, physical Nordic Storm team.
And although Jadrian Clark, the quarterback of the Nordic Storm, had a couple of nice completions in the second quarter, the defense, the pass rush of the Musketeers, they managed to put more pressure on Jadrian Clark. They touched him a couple of times, and we all know Jadrian Clark, as long as the offensive line, as long as the pocket holds, he is like a general. He can pick your defense apart, but he is getting little, as we say, happy feet once he's getting hit 1 or 2 times. So this is going to be interesting what the defensive mastermind of the Paris Musketeers, what head coach Jack Del Rio has figured out for the second half. Players are still stretching, trying to warm up. It's a wonderful summer day here up north in the Scandinavian. It's about 20, 21, 22 degrees in Copenhagen Celsius, so that sums up to about 71, 72 Fahrenheit. So it's perfect weather conditions to play American football. And offensively, the Musketeers, what we barely saw was running Zach Edwards, this dual threat quarterback. He did not show a lot of running in the first half, but in general, Zach Edwards shows in the second half when the defense is getting a little tired, when the linebacker have a little heavy legs, then he starts to do his unbelievable runs that he's showing more and more. And the Nordic Storm is ready to kick it off into the second half. "17 points, they are down, the Musketeers. We're waiting for the kickoff, which is going to be delivered by Jacob Neiman-Green. Huge drive down into the end zone and out of the end zone, so we're going to have a touchback, no return.
35-yard line.
So Zach Edwards and the offense of the Musketeers are hitting the field. First drive will start at the 35-yard line, as we just heard from the Whitehead. So here we go. Let's start into the third quarter with the first drive of the Paris Musketeers. Musketeers are coming out with trips to the right side of their offense. The motion from Jason Bufunda, and there we have Jadrian Clark running the ball for the first time in the second half.
Yeah, nice inside run here by designed quarterback run by Zach Edwards. And you mentioned it before, he has not done that often in the first half. They tried to establish a run through their running backs. They did not have a run by a running back over 5 yards in the first half. So now they try to find other ways, getting the running back in motion, and then Zach Edwards gaining yards by himself with his feet.
So we got a second and approximately 4 yards to go for the Musketeers. Zach Edwards from the shotgun hands it off to his running back, which is still as it was in the first half, number 33, Jason Bufunda. And he gets a new first down.
Yeah, and I think that was the message from Jack Del Rio at halftime as well. Let's keep accepting this fight. Beat the man standing in front of you and just make plays, keep moving the ball. And I like it that they try to stick to the run game first before they try to hit them deep with some passes.
Yeah, somehow they have to get those defensive backs a little bit moving up forward to be able to establish a pass play. Zach Edwards going deep into the direction of his number 84, Torrin Justice, but incomplete.
Yeah, we saw that a couple of times in the first half, trying to hit Torrin Justice, the new American import, on a fade route, but so far the Nordic Storm are really doing a good job. Doesn't matter who's on him, defending those deep passes, and that makes it hard for Zach Edwards to put the ball somewhere where Torn Justice can make a play. They have not connected yet.
So 2nd and 40 is not quite what we're having here. It's 2nd and 10. Oh, Zach Edwards tries to find Jason Bufunda, but incomplete.
He had some pressure coming up, but that is a missed opportunity. Jason Bufunda really open in the flat, and he could have made a lot of yards here down the left sideline.
Actually, a good idea of Zach Edwards to pick up that blitz. General rule for the quarterback is the direction where the blitz is coming from, that there is a defender missing. So you're trying to hit a receiver in that direction where the blitz is coming from. Trips to the left now for the Musketeers. And that should have been a false start.
False start, offense, number 67, 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
And that's how fast it goes, Oppo. You start a drive with 2 good runs to get a new 1st down. Try to hit the deep pass, do not connect. Then you miss your running back in the flat, a false start, and all of a sudden it's 3rd and 15.
And that, Lorenz, was, from my opinion, one of the reasons why the 2nd quarter was won by the Paris Musketeers. Because in the 2nd quarter, they almost eliminated all these mistakes, these false starts, these holdings, and all those, in general, in quotation marks, dumb mistakes. From the shotgun, Zach Edwards trying to pass it. Has time, goes downfield, but this is intercepted by the Nordic Storm. Tip ball, and that is the ball for the defender of the Nordic Storm. I haven't seen the number yet.
Yeah, Zach Edwards tries to hit Hassan Dosso here. And
It's an interception. 1st down, Storm.
Luke Lena. No, not Luke Lena, number 11.
Amy Hofte, number 11, comes up with the ball here. And Hassan Dosso, he had that penalty in the 1st quarter that neglected the touchdown to Torn Justice, and now he tips the ball up in the air. One of the worst things you can do as a receiver, and I'm saying that as a former receiver myself. Turnover number 2 for the Paris Musketeers offense.
So no score starting the 3rd quarter for the Musketeers, and the Nordic Storm are coming out running the ball with Glenn Tunga, and the ball is coming out. Stripped loose by number 4.
Ruling is forward progress was stopped. 2nd down.
Digan Gomis pulled the ball out, but the forward progress was stopped. That's the ruling on the field.
Ooh, that was an early whistle as well here. Lucky that Klantunga, he showed it right away. I was down or I was stopped, but I think he got a little lucky here.
Definitely a call that the Musketeers did not like. 2nd and 7, empty backfield pass from Jadrian Clark to Glenn Tunga, and that's a new 1st down for the Nordic Storm.
Yeah, and I think that's what the Nordic Storm talked about at halftime, because the 2nd quarter was pretty quiet for Glenn Tunga. They didn't really use him a lot, but with him as a weapon, you want to give him the ball. You want him and this offensive line to control the clock, and they're getting right back to it in the 2nd half.
1st and 10 for the Nordic Storm, standing at their own 47-yard line. Directly under center, Jadrian Clark. Fullback, and the halfback is Glenn Tunga, who gets the ball. He has an open space. Glenn Tunga gets with the ball up to the 34, 35-yard line.
Nice little hesitation move here, and then he tries to cut back inside to gain another couple of yards. Great run here on 1st down by Glenn Tunga.
So another set of downs, another 1st down for the Nordic Storm in their opening drive of the 2nd half of this matchup in Copenhagen. Again, under center, Jadrian Clark, but he flips the ball to Brandon Bolio, who has some room and gets another first down for the Nordic Storm. Oh no, it was Simon Fons, I'm sorry.
Exactly. I think it was Simon Fons, but they have the same statue. It's kind of hard for us to read the numbers on the back of those jerseys. But yeah, it just shows how many playmakers they have. They fake the run to Plantonga, and then it's an end around to Simon Fons, who's really, really good with the ball in his hands.
And as we saw with the first score of the matchup, it was, right? How much speed he has in his legs, the number one of the Nordic Storm, when he went down the sideline for the first score. Trips bunch to the right. Shuffle pass, but that went directly into the arms of a defender. But as this was not a handoff, but it was a forward pass, this is an incomplete pass. Which leads to the fact...
Exactly, they tried to get Brandon Bolio his first touch of the second half, and did get lucky that now one of the big Paris D-line men came up with that ball in the air.
So 2nd and 10. Condensed offense. Pass to the outside. This is again Simon Fons, who goes down the sideline and into the end zone. The next touchdown for the Nordic Storm by number 1, Simon Fons.
It's another screen to Simon Fons down the left sideline, and just look how long it takes for the Paris Musketeers to touch him the first time. That's 5, 10, 15 yards untouched, and then he has enough leg power to muscle into the end zone. For me, even though he doesn't have the most touches, he's my MVP for the Nordic Storm so far in this game.
The PAT for the Nordic Storm to make it a 34-10. Alvin Gustafsson. High snap, but still okay, and it's through the uprights. The new score is Nordic Storm 34, Paris Musketeers 10. And as you said, Simon Fons had those 10, 15 yards where he was not touched. And if number 1 of the Nordic Storm has 10 yards to pick up speed, it's really hard to stop him. As we see the point after touchdown through the uprights. Naturally, a good mood within the Nordic Storm fans here in Gladsaxe Stadium. There we have the kickoff again, a long drive. We have to hand it to both kickers. They really have strong legs.
The ball went straight to the end zone for a touchback, 35-yard line.
So another touchback, and again the offense of the Paris Musketeers tries to move the ball against the strong defensive unit of the all-in-gray Nordic Storm. Well, number 1, Simon Fons, as you mentioned already, has 2 touchdowns in this matchup. But the Paris Musketeers are on the field with their offense. Zach Edwards steps up. Zach Edwards passes deep, but again, not very precise, and again, overthrows Torrin Justice.
Yeah, no chance this time for Torrin Justice to come down with the ball or even attack it. It was way over his head.
Lorenz, is it already time that Zach Edwards takes over the game and runs more often with the ball?
I don't like that because I know how physical that Nordic Storm defense is, and he can't just put it all on himself. He needs his playmakers to step up as well, and needs his offensive coordinator to just like keep him ahead of the sticks.
Handoff. Carrying the ball, number 7, Nicola Kanda.
Yeah, and that's a way to start that drive on second down now, but make it a very manageable third down that opens up the playbook.
And one thing that one really sees when Zach Edwards is passing, as long as he has control over his legs, his passing is pretty precise. As soon as he's rolling out to the right, or even worse, to the left, then he's sometimes throwing, jumping into the air, and then his precision is down the alley. Pitch again, Nicola Kanda, the carrier, but he is stopped for minus yardage.
And that was great pursuit by the Nordic Storm defense. Not allowing him to pick up speed down the right sideline and filling up those gaps. Shedding blocks and making a secure tackle, gang tackle, to make it fourth down.
There were only gray shirts in front of number 7, in front of the running back of the Nordic Storm, Nicola Kanda. Who's already been rushing for 99 yards this season coming into this matchup. Zach Edwards trying to pass. He goes deep again. Again, this is incomplete. This time he tried to hit again Torrent Justice, but this connection has not been established yet.
Yeah, and Oppo, even though I like the call, they went for it on 4th and 1 inside their own territory. I do not like that play call at all. I think they wanted to give Zach Edwards a chance to run for it if no one's open, but taking a shot that deep to a receiver you have not established a connection with yet, I don't think that's the best decision to make.
And to be honest, the 4 or 5 passing attempts that Zach Edwards tried, they were all deep passes. And I mean, you have a lot of pressure coming from the pass rush of the Nordic Storm. Just try to hit on the short routes, get the hands out of Zach Edwards' arms. So, turnover on downs. Jadrian Clark is back on the field, passing it over the middle, incomplete. Trying to hit Brendan Bolio.
Yeah, and this is now the, I think, 3rd or 4th time that Jamalcolm Liggins does get the better of it. Nice, perfect teach tape here. One hand on the hip, the other hand punches the ball down. Obviously, Brendan Bolio is complaining about contact, but that was really good defense by Jamalcolm Liggins here.
Yeah, he gives number 19 of the Nordic Storm a hard-fought battle so far, but still Bolio with over 160 yards and 1 touchdown in this matchup. And there we have Glenn Tunga, who breaks a couple of tackles and goes for a next huge run for a first down for the Nordic Storm.
But here again, Oppo, who's the one stopping the run? It's Jamalcolm Liggins, the corner, 20 yards down the field, and that's not how it should be. I mean, Glenn Tunga, like we said, took a little break in the 2nd quarter, but comes out super electric in the 3rd.
Well, even Glenn Tunga has to have some time to breathe once in a while. I mean, he is not supernatural. Directly under center, Jadrian Clark. Pitch to Glenn Tunga, and again he has some open field, and again he's running for the next first down.
Yeah, great blocking up front again by the big O-line, and also Simon Fons here. You see him clearing the way, blocking the cornerback on the left side here, so he does it all in the pass and run game, and that's what makes this Nordic Storm offense so efficient, so good, that everyone works for the other guy on the team to make them look good.
So Jadrian Clark and the offense of the Nordic Storm are already on the 14-yard line of the Paris Musketeers. 1st and 10. Bolio in motion, hand off to Glenn Tunga, but he still falls forward for a gain of about 4 yards. Glenn Tunga, one of these running backs that you, well, maybe 2 times a season you see him being stopped for negative yardage or that he is falling backwards. When tackled, he has this ability that whatever contact is coming up, he's always falling forward with the ball. 7 minutes on the clock in the third quarter. Hand off from Jadrian Clark. Another run play. And who else? Number 7, naturally. So not playing out of the shotgun anymore, the Nordic Storm. Fullback, halfback, but play action fake pass to the end zone. Touchdown by Roberto Miranda. The next strike of the Nordic Storm offense. They simply cannot be stopped because they have so many weapons.
And he finishes off with a Cristiano Ronaldo celebration here, but gets lost down the left side. You said it, Jadrian Clark under center, so they do expect the run here. Heavy personnel. They come out and pass it to Roberto Miranda. I think that was one of the easiest touchdown passes Jadrian Clark had this season so far.
Extra point is up and is good. The new score is 41-10 for the Nordic Storm. This is getting ugly for the Paris Musketeers. When we saw this passing by Jadrian Clark to his tight end to Roberto Miranda, first the play action fake to keep the linebackers up front, then he looked to his right to push the defensive backs to the right side, and then Roberto Miranda was all alone on the left side. Easy pitch and catch, as you just said, Lorenz.
Yeah, and that's the one thing that makes Nordic Storm so dangerous, because that was not a flashy drive at all with deep pass or anything, but they just consistently moved the ball down the field, running, passing, staying ahead of the chains, and Paris did not find any answer.
Jacob Neiman-Green with the kickoff following the score for the Nordic Storm. Again, big leg. No return.
Ball went straight to the end zone for a touchback, 35-yard line.
Well, if they want to do anything interesting in this matchup, the offense of the Paris Musketeers, they have to wake up. As I said beforehand, I want to see some quick releases. But to be honest, your game plan on offense cannot be deep passing or run game. I mean, there has to be something in between. Again from the shotgun, 4 wideouts. Zach Edwards with a short pass to the outside. Finds Hassan Dosso. And they move the sticks right away.
It was his newly acquired receiver, number 84.
Oh, 84.
Here. Torrent Justice, but like you mentioned, just a nice simple hitch. Cornerback plays deep enough that you can run your hitch, easy pitch and catch, nice yards after catch, gets his first down, and it can be that simple sometimes.
Bufunda out. And again, quick release. This time it's Hugo Tekedam. Did they listen to what we were saying in the commentary? I mean, suddenly they are playing a short passing game. And so far they have success with it.
Maybe they
Second
have
and 3 coming up. Jason Bufunda next to Zach Edwards. Edwards stepping up, now trying to escape. And luckily threw that one out of bounds, because that would have been a pass full of risk. But we have a flag on the field. Officials are discussing what they saw.
Yeah, and that flag is downfield, so it was in the area of the receiver Hassan Dosso, so maybe we do have a holding against the defensive backs here.
There are fouls. 2 fouls by the defense. Holding, number 18, that penalty is declined. Personal foul, roughing the passer, defense, number 97, 15-yard penalty with an automatic first down.
So that's a gift that Zach Edwards is going to accept. Thank you very much, he's saying, in the direction of the Nordic Storm. And by the way, I just checked the stats. Glenn Tunga already has a match of 120 yards rushing and 1 touchdown. He, so far in 5 matchups this season, Glenn Tunga stays unstoppable almost. 1st and 10 for the Musketeers. Jason Bufunda has a hold, tries to hurdle a defender, but the defender did not really go down, Luke Lenner. So that looked almost like a Bruce Lee Karate Kid kind of action.
Yeah, Jason Bufunda here takes a leap and then really jumps into Luke Lenner. He almost reminds me of Antonio Brown back in the days with the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think he's lucky he did not get a penalty called on him here.
Well, it's always this thing. Hurdling a defender is always a risky thing, but it's a dumb thing if the defender is not bending down. Again, Jason Bufunda, and he has some room to run the ball. Another decent gain.
Yeah, back-to-back runs where the gaps opened up really nicely for Bufunda, and he can make positive yards on the ground.
Yeah, they gave him a couple of snaps to find his breath. They had Nikola Kanda in, and now Jason Bufunda is back, and that looked very strong. So far, with the help of the friends from the other side, with the penalty of the Nordic Storm, a good solid drive, and there we have some trickery. Jason Bufunda shows the halfback pass, but then decides to tuck the ball in and run himself because everybody was covered downfield.
Yeah, pitch to Jason Bufunda, and you can tell that he wanted to throw that pass, but that Nordic Storm defense is so well coached. They did not get fooled here, and then he still picks up that first down. I think that's the best thing he could have done here on that play.
Better than throwing a pick. So 1st and goal at the 3-yard line of the Nordic Storm. Fullback and halfback set up for the Paris Musketeers. Pass to the outside, but that was definitely miscommunication between Zach Edwards and Torrin Justice.
Yeah, this time he has a new cornerback on in number 18, and he's far off, so I think Zach Edwards wanted to hit him back shoulder here on that fade, but we mentioned it a couple times now. They did not connect or build that connection yet as they wanted to. I mean, and that's understandable with 2 or 3 practices.
Swedish cornerback Brendan Bryant, very talented, quick guy. Hand off to Jason Bufunda, who gets a gain of maybe half a yard, maybe a yard. So, as we saw in the first half, Paris Musketeers have problem getting into the Holy Land. The goal line defense of the Nordic Storm is extremely powerful. 3rd and goal. Empty backfield. I guess Zach Edwards is going to keep that one and goes it for himself. There we have him trying to get into the end zone, but I doubt that this was successful.
Yeah, the ref that came in definitely said it was short, but he also threw a flag, so let's see what that flag is.
Illegal formation, offense, number 81 was covered. 5-yard penalty, 3rd down.
To put it in polite ways, the Musketeers already have a couple of holes in their feet because they're constantly shooting themselves in the foot. .206 to play in the 3rd quarter. It's a giant lead for the Nordic Storm. 31 points up, 41-10. And again, empty backfield for Zach Edwards. 8 yards to get into the end zone. Edwards scanning the field. Edwards has pressure, passes, incomplete.
And the nearest one to the ball was Maceo Baird once again.
And again, what I mentioned before, it's this passing of Zach Edwards when he is moving his feet, and as soon as he's, I'm not a quarterback coach, but as soon as he is moving his feet to the right or to the left, rolling out, he does not have a proper footing. But again, the Nordic Storm defense is helping the Musketeers to keep this drive alive.
Yeah, Zach Edwards did get hit while throwing that ball, and maybe number 6 Tavaki landed on him, and then that would be roughing the passer call. So lucky break for the Paris Musketeers here. They get a new set of downs at the goal line.
Fullback and halfback Jason Bufunda gets the ball, pushes until he is, what the referees say, at the 1 yard line. Actually looked pretty promising, this run.
It did. You can see here he just keeps moving his feet. But then once again, that defense of the Nordic Storm is so physical, so tough. And so far they keep holding the Paris Musketeers out of the end zone on those short goal line downs.
Second and goal for the Musketeers.
That looks like 12.
Game, offense, 5-yard penalty, 2nd down.
Once again.
Another hole in the foot. Delay of game, so they have to move back a little. Doesn't really make it easier for the offense of the Paris Musketeers to get into this end zone.
Yeah, and I was about to say, I would like the Paris Musketeers now to find number 12, Hugo Tekedam here. I think he's his favorite target. He's one-on-one to the right here. Maybe he gets his chance.
Next interception from Zach Edwards. And again, he was throwing, jumping into the air. Next interception, and it is the number 0. Ludwig Mühren.
I was just talking about it. Hugo Tekedam had a one-on-one to the right, beat his man on a slant. Zach Edwards didn't look, and then he started throwing off balance again, trying to hit Bufunda here, and Mühren undercut the ball. And he got tackled here by big number 76, otherwise it would have been a house call.
Reset the game clock to 22 seconds.
And we saw it, although Zach Edwards, he is easily 6'4" tall, but he had to jump because he did not see anything what was going on into the end zone. So what a goal line stand for the Nordic Storm defense. And if there were any doubts, this was definitely the last nail in the coffin. Run off the Nordic Storm. This time ball being carried by Anton Wittmer. I guess this is an indicator, Lorenz, that
Injured player.
working day of Glenn Tunga might be over. We got 11 seconds to play in the third quarter. I doubt that we see number 7 of the Nordic Storm a lot on the field in the final, in the fourth quarter, but there's an injured player on the field. To be honest, the defense of the Paris Musketeers is not doing such a bad job, which one could think, you know, if you get 41 points from the Nordic Storm. But in general, their biggest problem is that their offense is not moving the ball and is not scoring. I mean, it's been like 3 times now that they were in goal line situation in front of the Nordic Storm end zone, and they did not get away with more than 3 points in 3 attempts.
Yeah, and I agree. But at the same time, if the Paris Musketeers find an answer to the run game, the Nordic Storm attack the deep pass coverage, you know, and then vice versa. So it seems like the Nordic Storm always have an answer to the Paris Musketeers, and that reflects in the score.
Second and 5 for the Nordic Storm.
This is the end of the third quarter.
So that's the quarter, that's the third quarter. We have 15 more minutes to play. The Nordic Storm is leading easily by 31 points in this matchup with the Paris Musketeers. Gets the ball, and that's the first score of the game. Touchdown, Nordic Storm. Garbers with the pass. Direction end zone. Touchdown, Frankfurt Galaxy, Brevin Easton. We're back in Gladsaxe Stadium, heading into the final quarter between the Nordic Storm and the Paris Musketeers. Storm are coming out, running the ball over number 87, Roberto Miranda. And there's one more game coming up on this game day in the EFA, which is the Frankfurt Galaxy are welcoming the Prague Lions in the PSD Bank Arena in Frankfurt. This one kicks off at 4 p.m. Central European time. Jadrian Clark with a pass to the outside, trying to find Simon Ferns, but the ball was not placed really accurately.
Yeah, nice play design here again with a couple of motions, trying to go downfield, nothing there, and then he tries to hit his safety belt in Simon Fons, but very unnatural for Jadrian Clark to not complete that pass.
So 2nd and 10 for the Nordic Storm. Jadrian Clark, action fake. Roberto Miranda with the catch. New first down for number 87, but the ball came out. Turnover. Ball Paris Musketeers.
Yeah, let's look at it. He's running here down the right sideline, left sideline, and then
is a fumble recovered by the defense.
Perfect punch out by the defense. The only question is, did the player that recovered the ball keep his feet in bounds, or was he out of bounds? Because if his feet were out of bounds, then that ball should be out of bounds as well.
So the Musketeers are definitely hoping that Jadrian Clark is getting to the sideline pretty fast. But as the Whitehead tells us, this play is under review. No announcement about a challenge. It was simply that the officials wanted to take another look at what just happened. Lorenz Regler just described it. If the person that recovered the fumble was out of bounds. And when did the ball come out is another question. There the ball is out already. And that looks to me that the scenario is what you just said, Lorenz, because the person recovering the ball is definitely out of bounds.
Yeah, that's corner Jean Alphonse, number 26 here, hustling behind Roberto Miranda, so he's in good position, but his feet are out of bounds, so let's see what the refs are gonna decide.
We're actually getting provided exactly the same picture of video material that the officials have to review this play. Another possibility would be that when the ball came out that Roberto Miranda already stepped out of bounds. That's another thing that they have to take a closer look at. So there I think the ball starts moving and and Roberto Miranda was still in bounds. Let's hear what the conclusion is.
After review, the player recovering the fumble was out of bounds. This makes it a forward fumble out of bounds and is returned to the spot of the fumble. Nordic Storm keeps the ball. First down at the 38-yard line. Please reset the game clock to 14 minutes, 12 seconds.
One cannot really say that the Musketeers are lucky with the official decisions here, although it's the perfect decision, it's the right, correct decision. But again, an unlucky decision for the Paris Musketeers. Nordic Storm keeps the ball with 14:12 to play in this game here in Gladsaxe Stadium in Copenhagen. Jadrian Clark with a quick release for a new first down.
Yeah, and if I'm not mistaken, that was not Jadrian Clark anymore. They may have used... Oh, yeah, it is. There it is, number 3.
It is. Number 3. Max Lambert has number 12. He is his backup.
Might be his last drive because we mentioned it before, Oppo. We know what game is coming up next weekend. It's the battle of the unbeaten.
Yeah, the battle of the unbeaten. And definitely unbeaten this weekend are the Munich Ravens because they got a bye week. Trips bunch to the left, Jadrian Clark passing deep in the area of Brendan Bolio, and naturally, as we said before, a ball is flying in the area of number 19, and this means he's gonna come down with it.
That was a spectacular catch because it was way over the shoulder. Not easy to track for Brandon Bolio, but he makes it look so easy. Starts sliding while he gets into the end zone, so he makes sure both feet are in bounds. That's a demonstration by the Nordic Storm offense.
I mean, you play wide receiver yourself, me a little bit, but this is so hard to keep focus on the ball if the ball is going from your left side to the right side. It's so hard to keep focus on the ball. As the extra point is good, and we have a new score of 48-10 in favor of the Nordic Storm. There we see the ball clearly through the uprights.
Yeah, and then just getting back to what we just said, Opu. I mean, there's still 13 minutes left, but the Nordic Storm are leading 48-10 against the Paris Musketeers. The Munich Ravens won 47-7 against the Paris Musketeers. So I think we can expect a really, really good game next week when the Nordic Storm travel to Munich to play the unbeaten Munich Ravens.
And this score also shows us how good the performance of the Frankfurt Galaxy was when they played against the Nordic Storm. I mean, they lost, okay, but it was a score of only 20-12 in favor of the Nordic Storm. Little problems in picking up the ball here, but there we have the return coming. Carried by number 14, Shaiku Sao. Paris Musketeers are having a bye week next week. And then in week 8, they're facing the Frankfurt Galaxy, which will be a very important match for them. Nice move here by Hugo Tekedam, who catches the ball and then spins out.
Yeah, short pass, Hugo Tekedam breaks one tackle, and that's enough to gain a new first down.
First and 10 on their own 45-yard line. Oh, Nordic Storm is showing blitz. Zach Edwards is using that with his legs. But the problem is Ludwig Mühren, the middle linebacker of the Nordic Storm, is not only a tough cookie, he is quick on his legs.
He is, and he was the one really closing down here on Zach Edwards. Otherwise, it would have been a bigger game.
Formation, offense, 5-yard penalty, first down.
And again, the same picture whenever the Musketeers are gaining some yards. There are these yellow towels on the field. Way too many penalties against the Musketeers. Torrin Justice, wide receiver with the number 84, who's filling in for Austin Mitchell. And there he gets the ball. But Lorenz, I have to say, Torrin Justice, sure, they didn't practice a lot with the team, but it's actually the same picture that we had with Austin Mitchell. They were not able, wonderful grab here by Torrin Justice. They have not been able, until he injured himself, to really include Austin Mitchell into their offensive schemes. And they have not been really able to include Torrin Justice into their offensive scheme. Trying to run the ball, but the defense of the Nordic Storm is there and stops them for a loss.
Yeah, and I agree with what you just said, Opu. They have not been able to establish that connection, but I think that's where the bye week you just mentioned comes in really handy, because the Paris Musketeers offense especially will need to come together into next week and figure something out, find their identity, and find a way to move the ball down the field.
Yeah, because so far, even in their first matchup of the year, the 21-20 victory over the Galaxy, they didn't show a lot of explosiveness on offense, and now Zach Edwards with problems, but gets the ball out to Hugo Tekedam, who has the ball, goes down the sideline, but stepped on the white goal, I guess.
Yeah, and even though it's 48-10, and it's tough to talk about magic, but that's what Zach Edwards is known for. Once, even if you have your hands on him and probably also wrapped around him, if you don't get him down, he will have his eyes down the field and try to find someone, as he does right here. Sees Hugo Tekedam, you could say a very dangerous throw, but Hugo Tekedam took it for a new first down and a big play down the left sideline.
And to be honest, I did not see his legs touch the outside boundary. Hugo Tekedam. Big, huge Laik Vonti trying to get back on his feet. Big, huge right tackle of the Paris Musketeers. So with 10 minutes, 29 seconds, or counting in the last quarter, it's 1st and 10 for the Musketeers. Zach Edwards with the pass finds Torrin Justice this time on the quick slant.
Yeah, and we said it before, even with the game being this one-sided, I think those are good reps for the Paris Musketeers to establish that connection we talked about, in-game speed between Justice and Edwards.
Well, the thing is, I'm definitely not an offensive coordinator, but since in the second half they tried a couple of short passing, the Musketeers, whenever they did the short passing, they managed to make a lot of yards. Trips to the right. A lot of pressure coming in Edwards' direction. Trying to escape. No chance.
A lot of pressure here by the D-line. I think he had Remy Bertila on a crossing route. He was the number 3 receiver to the right side.
Offense, number 78. Penalties declined. 2nd down.
Holding by Max Gay, left guard actually of the Paris Musketeers. So with that 1 yard loss, it's 2nd and 11. Edwards goes for Torrin Justice, overthrows him again. That's like the 4th or 5th time that Zach Edwards is overthrowing number 84 by at least 3-4 yards.
Yeah, and this time it was not an off-platform throw. He's in his pockets, does his drop back, and Torrin Justice had a step on his defender, so that's a missed opportunity to get on the board here.
9 minutes to go here at Gladsaxe Stadium in Copenhagen. Zach Edwards from the gun. A lot of pressure. Edwards trying to run it himself. Does not get into the end zone, but up to the 5 or 6 yard line.
Yeah, pressure from the outside here. He steps up, breaks one tackle, and then I think he might have had the edge here. Depends on where the ref spot him.
And now if they're within the last 5 yards, then one has to say the offense of the Paris Musketeers is in problem territory right now, because this is a field position that they have not been able to convert so far in this game. On the 4 yard line of the Nordic Storm, they bring power and blitz. Almost the next interception right into the hands of Elia Kogios.
Yeah, and that's a bad decision by Zach Edwards here. Kogios is dropping back, and he should see that, especially on the other side. So was completely open in the flat for a touchdown, the young tight end we talked about.
Yeah, a little bit too focused on his US import receiver, on Torrent Justice, Zach Edwards here. 2nd and goal. Handoff. Nikola Kanda carries it to the 1.5 yard line, let's put it.
Yeah, inside run here by Nicolas Kanda, and now let's just start with not having a penalty on 3rd and goal, because you have 2 downs for 1.5 yards if you do it correctly.
Yeah, everything is used to make some noise in the stadium, to distract the offense of the Musketeers a little bit. And off, but good work again. The goal line defense of the Nordic Storm is unbelievably strong.
Yeah, you said it, unbelievably strong, and I'll even add another detail here. If you, on defense, keep stopping the opposing offense, it doesn't matter what offense, it gives you so much confidence heading into the next weeks, because this is one of the toughest parts to be at on defensive side, and they just keep stopping the Paris Musketeers. It doesn't matter if it's pass or run, and that just really gives you so much confidence as a Nordic Storm defense.
4th and goal. They're going for it. Field goal doesn't make any interesting change on the scoreboard if it would work. Zach Edwards keeps the ball. Naturally, the Musketeers are showing touchdown. The Storm players are saying turnover on downs.
Yeah, let's see. He finds a little gap here. Has contact, but it doesn't look like the ball did reach the goal line to me.
Well, the decision has already been made. We heard the whitehead. The runner was short of the goal line. So again, we have this interesting situation that the Nordic Storm is getting the ball and they're standing with their heels in their own end zone generally. So not a very pleasant offensive point to start.
Of short of goal line is under further review.
So the officials are looking at that again, whether this was a touchdown or not. But I doubt that there will be a change of decision, because for me that was pretty obvious that Zach Edwards was down by contact before he managed to break the goal line. Yes, get your tickets at Ticketmaster.com, especially for this great weekend coming up, 15th and 16th of August in Frankfurt. If you are a football fan, you should not miss out on the Big Four of the European Football Alliance, 15th and 16th of August. Get your tickets for the half finals on Ticketmaster. Yeah, he naturally rolled into the end zone, but he was already down by contact, I would say. But let's see what the officials saw.
Ruling on the field of short of goal line stands as called. It will be first down, Nordic Storm.
So with a little more than 6:48 on the clock remaining in this matchup, the Nordic Storm is having an easy lead of 48-10. Much more scoring for the Nordic Storm than what I would have expected against the Paris Musketeers. And they're running out of the own end zone with number 21, Anton Wittmer.
Yeah, and now we see it. Backup quarterbacks on the field, Wittmer's on the field, so all the playmakers on offense can rest their legs in the fourth quarter and get mentally ready for Munich next week.
Max Lambert direct under center. Hand off again to number 21, Anton Wittmer. Christopher Brun Hansen here with a little chat at the sideline, the defensive lineman, with his coaches. Pass from Lampert, a little bit overthrown. Tried to hit Elliot Rea, also a second string of the Nordic Storm wide receiver. But that was definitely not his fault. That ball placement was a little too high. So the punting unit of the Nordic Storm is out. We've seen that one time on the field in this matchup. Oh, great punt coverage here. Really good work by number 27, which is Christopher Wesley Jørgensen.
Yeah, Sheku Sau decided to let that ball bounce once, and then I think it bounced higher than he expected. So, yeah, the punt coverage was right there. No chance for Sau to make any more yards.
And picture perfect tackle. I mean, you can use that by schooling defensive players. That's how you want a tackle to be made. Attacking the hips, wrapping the legs. Good job. Midfield, the Musketeers are trying to get some more points on the board to make this look a little better. 48-10, that's like disastrous. Pass complete here to Hassan Dosso. So 2nd and 4 for the Musketeers. Jason Bofunda with a run for a new first down for the Musketeers. But one has to say, the last couple times the Musketeers had the ball midfield, they were always moving the ball pretty good and pretty nicely. As soon as they're getting into the Nordic Storm's end zone, Mark De Leone's unit says, nope, not with us. You're not getting on our patio. Zach Edwards, take it down in motion. Edwards from the gun. Hands it off again. Jason Bofunda, but to be honest, in the defensive unit of the Nordic Storm, it looks like in the offensive unit of the Nordic Storm, the starters are not really on the field anymore. They are saving some energy for this big matchup upcoming next week in Bavaria when they're facing the Munich Ravens.
Yeah, and it makes it really easy for the Nordic Storm defense to play it from top down if you're up by 38 points.
And off again. It is Jason Bufunda with a nice run. And what we just saw before, I really like that, Lorenz. I mean, it's 10-48 from the perspective of the Paris Musketeers, but the Paris fans in the stadium, they're in the best mood. They're celebrating that there is football going on. I like that.
I really like that as well, and especially the guys we just saw, they've been at every away game of the Paris Musketeers so far. They're really supporting their team, doesn't matter win or loss, and I think that shows the great mentality European football fans have here in Europe.
I think those guys have a pretty packed Miles and More card. I mean, they're going everywhere their team goes. Again, Bufunda with the run over the left guard and tackle in a way.
Yeah, gains a couple here over the left side, and it just feels like once the Nordic Storm needs it, they can just turn it up a bit, because like you said, once they get closer, they really impose their bend but don't break mentality on the Paris Musketeers offense. And let's see if the Paris Musketeers can put up at least one more score before the game ends.
.216 on the clock. Again, a run over Jason Bufunda. His drive so far. Take care about the way he's carrying the ball. And that is the 2-minute warning. Last 2 minutes are coming up here in Copenhagen. But that's not everything this weekend when it comes to European Football Alliance football. Starting at 4 p.m. in Frankfurt is the Frankfurt Galaxy and the Prague Lions. Michael Weidig-Planeta, one of the bosses of the Nordic Storm. We saw him shaking hands with his players on the sideline. This is going to be such an interesting matchup next week. Munich Ravens against Nordic Storm.
Yeah, I agree. And the Munich Ravens, like we mentioned before, they're having a bye week right now. I know that a couple guys were watching that game, and I think they will be prepared for that high-powered offense. And I'm really excited for that clash.
But in that clash, one thing is for sure. The Nordic Storm offense, very powerful offense, has never faced a defense this season like the defense of the Munich Ravens. But this means vice versa, the same thing for the Munich Ravens. Their explosive offense around quarterback Russell Tabor and wide receivers like Luis Gaya or Harley Jr., they're really explosive, but they have not been facing a really challenging defense this season as well. Two more minutes to go here in Gladsaxe Stadium. Pitch to the outside, Nicolas Kanda, the ball carrier, and he goes all the way. Touchdown for the Paris Musketeers if there is no holding call or whatever. Because we've been a couple of times pretty close in saying, oh, nice thing of the Paris Musketeers offense, and then most of the times when they had positive yardage. But as the officials say, the ruling on the field is a touchdown run in by Nicolas Kanda.
Yeah, nice little pitch over the left side. Good blocking up front. Nicolas Kanda takes it in, and we see the Paris Musketeers fans celebrating it.
Well, at least they got 16 points on the board. Dean faithful, but this is not successful. So we're heading into the last 1 minute and 52 seconds with a score of 48-16 in favor of the Nordic Storm. Here we see again that one was deflected. And sure, what else should you play in the stadium if you're in Denmark or Sweden? ABBA, naturally. So again, Max Lambert will take over as quarterback again after the kickoff has been done. Because whenever number 18 is doing the kickoff, Dean Faithful, he shows what a big leg he has. I think there has not been a single return so far in this game. This will be returned. Ball carrier was number 27, defensive player, normally free safety, Christopher Wesley Jørgensen. No, number 22. I am sorry. So number 22 was Jakob Beckert. On center, they have the second string unit in now, so they're really rotating the Nordic Storm. So roughly a minute to play here in Gladsaxe Stadium. Max Lambert is kneeling it off. That was the victory formation part 1. So the Nordic Storm again sets their record to 5-0 by really, one has to say, destroying the Paris Musketeers in this matchup. There was not a single second in this game where one had the slight feeling that the Musketeers could be a setup for the Nordic Storm. The Nordic Storm is winning 48-16, and everybody is looking forward to the next week when the two big guns are sharing the field. Nordic Storm against the Munich Ravens. That is coming up next week, and in a couple of minutes the Frankfurt Galaxy is playing against the Prague Lions. Famous last words from Lorenz Regler.
Of the ball game.
As always, that was fun. Thank you, Opu. I think we're going to see a very good game next week. Just looking back at the Ravens and Paris game, that was close at halftime. It was a really tight score. And then in the second half, the Ravens really took over. This game, the Nordic Storm started off hot and finished, and that is not easy if you know that this game is coming up on your schedule. So make sure you tune in next week when the Nordic Storm are traveling to Munich and are facing off the unbeaten Munich Ravens.
This was it from the matchup, Nordic Storm against the Paris Musketeers. Jörg Opu Popik and Lorenz Regler say tschüss and bye-bye, as we say in German. So enjoy the rest of the weekend and enjoy Frankfurt Galaxy against the Prague Lions. See you next week. Bye-bye.
appreciate y'all.
Jeg skal have noget håndsprit, jeg skal.